Let's stick with Thiel and the election. Kayla Tausche is here with me at Post 9 as we kick off Squawk Alley. Joining us today as well, Confide's president and co-founder John Broad, and Shelly Palmer, who joins us with Palmer Advanced Media. Good morning, guys. Once again, here we are talking about the split between policy and character. What do you make of Thiel's thoughts, and how will they be received where he comes from?
Look, you know, if the First Amendment basically says the government cannot tell you how to think. It doesn't say anything about private individuals and or anyone else having any consequences. So Peter Thiel is a believer in this particular point of view, and we, all of us, should be willing to hear it. And certainly Silicon Valley would be very, very hypocritical if they look and say, oh, I don't care about his politics, therefore I'm not going to let him say it. He's entitled to say it. They don't have to like him, and they could do anything they want to do. They're not the government, they're just people. Here we have a situation where a lot of Americans have an issue, a lot of Americans have another issue. That's what the democracy's about. Just go for it and vote on Election Day.
Well, and he seems to be distancing himself from the Beltway, from the Valley. Just in the beginning of his remarks, Johnny says people in D.C. are doing just fine. People where I'm from in Silicon Valley are doing great, basically saying it's not your future that's in jeopardy.
Yeah, you know, the thing I find sort of ironic here is Peter Thiel lives his life on the fringe. This is the guy who paid students to drop out of college. He secretly financed Hulk Hogan versus Gawker. Here he is in potentially his most mainstream act, right, of saying, I support the Republican nominee for president of the United States, as 40-some-odd% of the American electorate is going to. And yet that is what's getting him into an incredible amount of heat and calling for his ouster from boards of directors and partnerships. And I do find that a little bit odd.
Honestly, what he's talking about, right, the things that he's saying, that Thiel is saying, are not incorrect. You may or may not like Donald Trump. You may or may not like Hillary Clinton. You cannot deny there are all kinds of fiscal issues in the United States that really need to be looked at hard, and the political system that we live under doesn't tend to look at them very hard. So he's not wrong about what he's saying. Who he's choosing, some people have an issue with it.
I think it's more about what he's choosing, which is disruption, right?
Yeah,
he is going long disruption through the instrument he has available to him.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. There are massive problems with this country. I want to make wholesale change. Out of that change, something positive may come, but we can't have what we've had historically in Washington.
12 months ago, you would have been hard-pressed to find someone who would have said Peter Thiel will become a household name in this election. What do you see as his future politically? Do you think he's vying for a place in the administration?
You know what? If he made that speech in a rational way and said, I actually am a billionaire and I actually can make some of these changes, I do understand the fiscal reality of the United States. If he does that, you know, he should be running for president. We are entitled to the peaceful transition of power. We should vote for him.
How is his business record viewed in the Valley? Right? Just what he's done on paper. Good or bad?
I'd say he's done pretty well for himself and for the Valley.
In the top echelon of entrepreneurs?
Definitely.
Incredibly positively.
Incredibly positive.
You know, we've got the PayPal win. We've got the first outside investor and board of director of Facebook. We've got Founders Fund. We've got partnership and Y Combinator. Top echelon.
Yeah, you get down the list, you see his name pretty much where you need to see it.
Politics is inherently personal, which is why so many people have come out and supported him and said he has a right to feel the way that he feels. But going forward, this election has been polarizing unlike any that we have seen. And I'm wondering if you think that he will have issues doing business in the Valley given its politics.
Look, politics and business generally are not discussed in polite company. You make a choice in your life. He's a man of relative power, and with great power or relative power comes great or relative responsibility. In his mind, this is what he needs to do. And I think everyone I've met feels they need to do something. I've yet to have a discussion with anyone who doesn't have a very strong opinion about who should be the next president of the United States. And it does cause some, let's just say, consternation between people. He'll pay the price, but he can afford it.
I think we will see some fall off. I think it'll be on the edges. We've already seen reports of people not wanting to accept his investment in their company as a result of his political views.
Sure.
I think that will be the very small minority.
Politico had a poll this morning. 71% of people want the election over, which makes you wonder who are the other 29.
Who's enjoying this?
November 8th cannot come fast enough.
No, it cannot come fast enough.
John and Shelly are going to stick around for a little while as we take stock of what Thiel is saying. When we come back, more coverage of Peter Thiel's speech in Washington. We'll listen to some of the Q&A perhaps when Squawk Alley comes right back. Dow's up 3 points. Q&A with Peter Thiel continues at the National Press Club. Obviously, a vociferous defense of Donald Trump. He has so far said he would have preferred to see Trump-Sanders, that those two candidates sense the importance of the trajectory of the United States. Says that D.C. insiders had predicted essentially a contest, guys, between two legacy families. Says what Trump represents is not going away. And we should mention, too, is at the top of Drudge right now. Big banner of the live feed out of Peter Thiel, suggesting maybe his future in politics is just beginning.
Yeah, it could very well be, Carl. Look, he's right. In Washington, incentives and outcomes are not aligned the way they generally are in business. And people forget, we live in a republic, right? We don't actually live in a democracy. We elect our leaders, and they make our decisions for us, which is awesome. So now, go to the polls and vote what you want. Peter can do all that. He's going to face whatever flack he faces. And everyone's going to make their own choices right now. But like you said just a few moments earlier, this election cannot come soon enough.
Right.
You mentioned his comments that we wanted flying cars and all we got were 140 characters, not taking aim at Twitter specifically, but just that our country needs more advancements to improve the living standards for its population. What do you think that a president could bring on that front?
I mean,
what sort of policy could be put in place to actually change that?
Well, I mean, both candidates have laid out fiscal policy, have laid out college education, how to pay for that, have laid out healthcare policy, all of which is aimed at, improving quality of life. And I think and we've missed that. I think the substance of this campaign has been absolutely overshadowed by all of this other stuff.
Well, that's the point. In practice, you look at the entitlement programs and their effect on national debt and what we have to do. You look at relative tax rates. Like, you could go down the list and actually find some policy to talk about, but I haven't heard a whole lot about that because there have been serious other issues overshadowing it. But if we are honest with ourselves, no politician ever, and not Donald Trump either for that matter, has been willing to talk about the very hardest financial issues. And there a president can lead, but look, we have three branches of government, right? You've got the executive branch, the legislature, and the judiciary. The founding fathers put that in place so that this discourse would not be adversely impacted by any one group. The president has to lead, so you have to choose a leader.
Well, certainly Thiel, guys, is bringing us back to some kind of policy discussion because so much of the race has been about gender and character and honesty. Kelly, do you want to try to cap this off and tell us what the takeaways are?
Well, I have to say two things that really struck me. Number one, there's been a lot of focus on Thiel's lack of contributions to the Trump campaign until very recently when word leaked that he was going to give a little over $1 million to it. And he actually said, I didn't think the Trump campaign needed my money. Just digest that for a moment. They've really lagged behind Hillary Clinton on the fundraising front. It's hard to see where that comment might come from, but there it is. The other thing is questioned about the temperament of Donald Trump when it comes to being trusted with the nuclear codes. He said, and albeit in a nuanced way, Hillary Clinton actually might be more dangerous because of her hawkish foreign policy. So he was a little measured. I don't want to just go for the quick headline there, but it was a striking thing to say.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not Trump's closeness to Putin, as some might call it, is in the end perhaps a positive thing. Well, time will tell. Kelly, thanks so much to you. Shelly Palmer, John Broad, guys, thank you very much.